Ideology isn't something imposed on us from the outside. It's not a school of thought you can subscribe to. Ideology is our own direct apprehension of reality itself, the lens by which we understand what it is we see. So it's the proof that we don't just engage reality neutrally, but there's always this skewed torsion, ideologically speaking. So if you take the simplest object, like an apple, we aren't just enjoying an apple when we have an apple. We see something that's good for our health, that gives us a source of vitamin C and helps us, stay healthy in the winter or whatever. Something we will enjoy because of its taste, from its shiny skin or its name it gets, like what kind of apple it is, how much we paid for it, where we bought it. So ideology is a fantasy frame, but not all fantasy is ideological, and not everything itself is pure ideology, even if ideology sneaks in all the time. Ideology is a framing that explains away our enjoyment and obfuscates it, hides what's unsettling and operative in our own enjoyment, so we can enjoy it at a distance. It gives us a reprieve from ourselves, our own subjectivity, and the way in which we enjoy things in a way that's unsettling to us. That's a simple way to put it. And as such, much ideology, like the worst of ideology, is an explaining away of where the impediment to our full enjoyment lies. Enjoyment requires an impediment, and there are ways in which we build the impediment ourselves to sustain our enjoyment. But if we think, zoomed out in terms of society, like what is it that keeps us from being a full harmonious society? Well, it's this enemy figure. So a lot of ideology is, racist and sexist, homophobic, etc. You're finding the impediment to our enjoyment, and you're seeing that ideologically as you look around the world. So it's when you see that other person, you're not just seeing a neutral person of XYZ appearance, you're seeing all of the things that are ascribed to that skin appearance. Ideology operates both fetishistically and symptomally. So a fetish is the point that holds up the rest of the world. So the racial other that we're ascribing everything negative to upholds this ideological framing of the world itself. A very clear example from Slavoj Žižek that's neutral is a man's wife passed away, and her pet hamster he suddenly cherished intensely, and that hamster operated as a fetish for him to not fully confront the trauma of his wife passing away. And when that hamster passed away, his everyday life that was sustained by that hamster comes crumbling down. So it's this point at which you can hold up reality itself. Symptoms are the opposite, where reality gets warped in its expressions because of your ideological fantasy framing. So I like to refer to like Jim Crow, all of the weirdness of viewing life with racist lenses as an of course, as of course we eat separately, or what, all of these things. So those twisted points. So yesterday I talked about writing Where We've Made It Dark to be a non-ideological zombie apocalypse or dystopia, post-apocalypse. And the point here is the post-apocalypse in particular can operate very ideologically or as critique of ideology. And these things actually can overlap in the same work. But the ideological aspect is taking your hard point of reality, finding your fetish and saying this is what we are. So you're clearing away reality and saying, at the end of the day, this is what we are, this is our baseline, and you're clinging to that functioning and the enjoyment you're getting out of that structure. So with the road, the fetishistic figure is the boy. You're building your world around being the father of the boy in the apocalypse. And it's not saying fatherhood is de facto ideological. If my child is in the ocean drowning, I will dive in and sacrifice myself in an attempt to save my child, right? That's not ideological, that's ethical. But if I go about my day, fantasizing about this, and when I'm not, in a life-death situation, but when I'm buying food for my child, providing for my child, if I'm viewing this in this sort of intense fantasy framing of it's the same thing, then I'm reifying that stance into something ideological. I am getting enjoyment out of it and covering up where that enjoyment lies in order to function all the more. So love itself is transformative, but it's not too difficult for what we love to be our own ideology. These things can shift. Now, critique of ideology is striking at this source of enjoyment itself. So the way in which we have fun with the zombie apocalypse, we run around in the empty mall shopping without people in it, right? That's huge ideological fantasy framing. That's the fantasy of of capitalism itself. If we strike at that enjoyment and render it inoperative, that's the critique of ideology. Utopia as well can be either ideological or critique of ideology. It can critique the isms and the things we take to be facts of life within our system and show what life is like outside it, or it can get us there through its own ideologies. So one thing that Next Generation falls prey to is the 60s free love ideology that tries to fight particular attachment and the couple by preventing its characters from actually being a family unit at all, or from being in love. So there's Paramore episodes of chance encounters that immediately get dissolved at the end of the episode. That's extremely ideological and something that's a problem we're still in the wake of today. But you see how you can have both critique of ideology and ideology in the same work of fiction. So we have Slavoj Žižek to thank for critique of ideology and making this term and concept useful for daily life, for understanding how fiction works, for engaging politics, all of these things. So his first major work, Sublime Object of Ideology, is the place to start. But his subsequent For They Know Not What They Do has a long introduction that amends his stance in Sublime Object towards ideology. So that's very important. Tearing with the Negative, I think, is the next major work to get to. And from there, he begins to engage post-modernism and other contemporary forms of thought that don't quite get what ideology is, don't quite get what his critique of ideology, how it works. So contingency, hegemony, and universality is the clearest direct example. There are other ones that are worth getting to, but keeping it simple. And then this is his doctoral thesis that was published later, but Most Sublime Hysteric has more direct engagement with what ideology is that is worthwhile too. Really, all of his work is a critique of ideology, so it's something to persist through, but if you want this framing, these are the works that are required. There is so much more to talk about, and I'm hopefully going to make a few more videos, but if you have questions or ideas on applying the critique of ideology, please let me know in the comments.